Welcome back to the Grand Solar Minimum channel. Today is Wednesday, March 25th, 2020. Hope everyone is having a good evening. Let's check out our space weather conditions. Right now, we are sitting at 368.6 kilometers per second as the solar wind speeds, as the density is at 2.0. And once again, we are blank zero sunspots. That's now 15 days in a row, 65 days in 2020 without sunspots. And as we mentioned on Monday, last year was 77% of the year, 2019, without sunspots. So already pacing last year's record, space age record year, I might add. Our cosmic radiation is at a 9.9%, which usually is above the 10 values. However, the record is 11.7, so we are still way above average cosmic radiation in our atmosphere. Not much of a 7-day change as indicated here on our little space weather station information center. The TCI is at 3.82. Yesterday we had solar wind speeds in the 400s. They slightly peaked in the upper 400s for a little while. That's why I believe the TCI is still flirting with the 3.5 and 4 range, is because of these slight solar wind increases that will heat up the top atmospheres. KP0 coming in at a 2, and the 24-hour max is a, I'm sorry, we're at a 0 right now with a 24-hour max of a 2. And let's go over to the grandsolarminimum.com, our space weather page. We'll take a look at our fine page here real quick. I did want to point out this coronal hole that with the current situation, now I'm going to report on it here just in a minute, and I guess I can get it out of the way. But so with the current conditions, the KP NDC is sitting at 0, and the 24-hour max is at a 2. And I'm talking about this coronal hole right here. We're also watching this for potentially impacting Earth's magnetic field on the 29th through the 30th. That may be a little bit more on the 30th side, but this little coronal hole here could graze the southern part of our magnetic field, very, very southern part. So we will be on seismic watch, as we've had a couple of strong earthquakes already, and I'll talk about that here just in a second. Let's take a look and see if we have anything else on the horizon as far as sunspot activity. Well, and I like this graphic because it kind of gives us an idea. This is behind the eastern limb. This is the western limb. This 0 represents Earth facing. So nothing really to speak of. Maybe something near the negative 180. And of course, the blacked out area is stereo B, which does not report. So we do not get the opposite side of Earth facing on radar, or on satellite, I should say. But we do get this flattened out picture that gives you the overall look. And right here is Earth facing. So this right here, this is close to the eastern limb. And we are basically just spot free right now. And it looks like we'll continue to see that situation over the next several days, possibly even rival that 30-day in a row streak that we've seen here the last couple of times when we go without sunspots. It's been for 32 plus days or more here several times. So looking for a repeat in that, maybe a little bit longer, we shall see. Let's jump right into some around the world headlines. Intense hailstorm hits Mexico's capital, destroying its main food market. This food market, by the way, in this particular capital region, services about 80% of the food supply. This happened on Saturday, March 21st of 2020. It says here the building crumbled around 17 UTC, and the event was captured on video. Around 200 stores were affected. In the terrifying footage, the roofs on 3 sections of the market were seen slowly collapsing due to accumulated hail. One man was heard calling police to get out as they ran away. Hang on a second. All right, I'm back. In this terrifying footage, the roofs on 3 sections of the market were seen slowly collapsing due to accumulated hail. I already read that part. Secretary of Civil Protection was confirmed that 5 people suffered injuries, 3 of which were minor. 2 sustained back injuries due to falling debris. 6 people were trapped but were rescued by firefighters and civil protection personnel. Quoting here, I heard a loud crash and I saw the structure that supported the roof bending, and I began to run with my family to get away. It says one owner of a booth that sells fresh flowers in the section. Let's go ahead and take a look at this video real quick. So obviously not the most solid of construction here. But what's been interesting that I read in this article is the description of the hail. And here it is. Martinez added that after the assessments, the hailstones reportedly looked unusual. Instead of having a frozen and solid appearance, the hail looked like balls of water with glue. This caused the hail to stick onto each other while stacking up on the roof until the pillars could no longer carry the weight. So this is interesting. The way that this hail is being described, it sounds like that it's as if we were seeing the beginning stages of, the freeze when you, the whole effect of sticking your tongue on a cold, freezing rain is what I'm trying to say here. The hail had a freezing rain effect as it contacted one pellet, one after another. Instead of rolling and falling off the roof, they stacked up on top of each other. And so an interesting form of hail, not quite the usual kind that we're used to seeing, but described as balls of water with glue, as if the milky substance holding it together was actually glue. But very, very apparently these hail balls stacked up very quickly, and the weight could not just hold on anymore. Several videos, I think, of the same footage, though, however. But this is devastating. As I said, this supplies 80% of the food in that capital city's region. So a big blow here for Mexico on top of dealing with everything else they're dealing with right now. Some strange weather, and thankfully no one was killed or seriously injured due to this accident. All right, large and destructive tornado hits Tishomingo, Mississippi. Rare tornado emergency had been issued. Now, the National Weather Service confirmed the tornado at 22:35 UTC time near the city of Tishomingo, far northeastern Mississippi. Tishomingo Police Chief Mike Kemp confirmed several buildings were damaged, including a Dollar General variety store, which sustained major damage. Kemp said that he received reports of several minor injuries, but Mayor Tinson said Wednesday there have been no injuries as a result of this tornado. In addition, numerous trees were down, and the town is without power at this moment. Tishomingo Emergency Management said it will complete another damage assessment Wednesday morning. Dr. Barrett Gooder and the state climatologist Mike Brown were heading on east on Highway 30 towards Tishomingo when the tornado was on the ground, recording the video below. And this is courtesy of Weather Nation. These guys don't care, right? They're meteorologists. Goodness. Thanks to, once again, Watchers.news. There's the damage to that Dollar General. I actually saw a live video interview. There was a woman who was in the car outside of this Dollar General right before this happened to it.
Be careful going in there, ma'am.
Yeah, structures like this, folks, it's not recommended that you go wandering around, even though this structure has completely collapsed. For the most part, it's still not safe unless you are emergency personnel. It's not a good idea that we go through I know, I understand we might have been looking for survivors or something very important, but at the same time, your safety is also considered as well. After moving through Tishomingo, the twister crossed the border into northern Alabama, forcing the National Weather Service to issue a rare tornado emergency for the state. At 5:41 Central Daylight Time, a confirmed large and destructive tornado was observed near Tishomingo State Park, moving east at 48 miles per hour. Alabama issues tornado emergencies just a few times a year, but they did it this time. More ominous footage of this tornado. Wow. You guys can check out this awesome footage here on Watchers.news. He said he's in the tornado.
Oh my God. In the tornado. In the tornado. Oh, buddy.
Not recommended, folks. Thankfully, see the power lines flying around? Extremely dangerous situation here. Thankfully, he appears to be okay. Probably scared and crapped himself, I'm sure of it. Check out Watchers.news for the rest of the footage, guys. Tons of it to look at, but we are approaching that time of the year now. Springtime, tornadic weather, and this just brings another element to our crisis right now, too. So, here we are. Some of us may be at stay-at-home orders, and a tornado comes through and destroys your home. Now what? You're forced into a shelter with hundreds of possibly sick people. So this is a very, very, very vulnerable time of year for the type of outbreak that we're experiencing right now with the kind of weather that's revving up as well. And I'll get more into that here in a bit. Analysts, this is a little study here. Just wanted to show the effects of what a grand solar minimum can do year after year. Now, this study basically shows that the 463 non-seismic fatalities that happened because of landslides. I'm sorry, these are events. 463 non-seismic events, such as these landslides, have caused over 3,000 deaths in 2019. Now, this study is showing also that there were 14 earthquakes that had caused landslides as well that took 27 lives as well. But the main purpose of this study, I believe, because they also talked about in 2017, I believe, or 2018, there was somewhere around the same 400 and non-seismic fatal landslides that appeared in 2018. So 2018, 2019, well, what is the reason for this? And basically, it's the summer monsoon period. And it shows us how much rain that we're getting and what we're looking at as far as fatalities that are related to this. But it's non-seismic landslides that are occurring more in these areas. 382 lethal landslides occur every year. So here's the numbers right here. 2010, 496 was the record. This year, 463 was the third strongest. The second strongest was 488 in 2009. So the last two minimums were the two of the deepest minimums that we've experienced in solar cycle 24 and solar cycle 25. These minimums are correlating to these record monsoon rains that are causing these landslides. 2009 and 2010 was a pretty deep minimum. So if 2019 gave us 463, is it possible that 2020 will give us closer to 500 if these trends continue like they did from back in 2009 and 2010? So just wanted to bring this study up real quick. I thought it was relevant. It happens to be the most fatalities during landslides that are not related to earthquakes are appearing in these last two minimums. The average landslides that occur, or lethal ones, are around 382 a year. So it's not like they don't get a lot of rain in the first place, but to have 80 more events than average is slightly above average, and then your record was somewhere around 496, which was in 2010. Again, back in that era, we had cosmic radiation records levels of 11.7%. Right now, we've been flirting with 9.9 to 10.7%. So let's see what the month of April and beyond brings as far as cosmic radiation into our atmosphere and see how much we actually get. I don't root for rivaling these numbers, but I would not be surprised to see 2020 repeat 2019. But we're not rooting for that. No, make no mistake of that. We are not rooting for that by any means. All right, heavy rains trigger destructive flash floods and landslides in southern Iran. Yes, sir. Monday we talked about Iraq. Now we're talking about Iran, also receiving these floods after the period that Iraq got them. March 21st, 2020 resulted in destructive flash floods and landslides responsible for at least 12 fatalities and 17 injuries across several provinces here. Lots of rain falling once again in this region. We've seen Iran making the headlines several times for historic amounts of rainfall in short periods of time. And again, I think this is the third or fourth time we've seen something like this in Iran. And once again, so we know that Iran has a COVID-19 problem as well. So we don't know if these people are sick, if they will be able to pick up the virus because being in these dirty floodwaters, flash flooding. So again, just mentioning this because the challenge that we are facing right now. So on top of the fact that most of us are on stay-at-home orders, what do you do when you have a natural disaster? And Mother Nature is forcing you out of your homes when your roads are like this, when your streets are like this, cars being, completely buried. Now, the good news is 40% of the 50 billion cubic capacity of the county's dams are empty, which means there is enough capacity for these spring floods. So that's the silver lining of this. But still, we know Iran has had problems with the COVID-19, lots of deaths there, unfortunately, lots of infected people. Events like these does not help flatten the curve whatsoever. Arctic cold arrives, brings early spring snow and extremely low temperatures to much of Europe. Now, Monday night, we talked about the same thing, what we were getting here in the Northeast and parts of the Midwest. Well, we were kind of simultaneously doing it across the pond with our friends out there in the UK and most of Europe. A major Arctic cold outbreak has arrived in Europe over the weekend, dumping snow to much of the continent following unusually warm winter. Meteor Alarm has issued heavy snow, strong wind, and extremely cold temperature warnings for many countries. The cold is expected to create hazardous frost, which may affect blossoming trees, and most importantly, it could potentially aggravate the ongoing coronavirus pandemic, especially in Italy, where the cases have soared actually now above 74,000 here. We are just seeing a pretty strong outbreak of cold air mass into the East Central Europe this week. There is more cooling. There's more coming soon. It appears likely another very powerful high ridge pressure system will form over North Atlantic and introduce a significant cold outbreak into Western and potentially also Southwestern Europe through the final days of March. Even a snowfall will be possible, he added. Although the air mass indeed is coming from the Arctic region, it does not mean that the cold will be very extreme. Again, this is just going to be cold for this time of year, but cold enough to possibly bring some snow showers. On Tuesday, some parts of central and eastern region already saw heavy snow and intense blizzard conditions. Spring snowfall also reached into North Macedonia, southwest east, she wrote. Sharing a photo taken by a local, whiteout conditions were observed well in Bulgaria as snow blanketed the roads. I meant to share some pictures of what we got too. We got close to 7 inches. 48 inches of snow fell in locations in Slovenia, while powerful blizzard conditions were felt in the northeastern region, particularly south of Massif Higher amounts were reported across the mountainous areas. Citizens of Croatia was greeted by the rare sight of spring snow after a mild winter and almost no snow. In fact, the weather has been unusually warm throughout the winter with very little snow at all, according to Paul Bradbury of Total Croatia News. And he tells a little story while he's whittling on his front porch. We're not going to read that part there. Meanwhile, parts of southern Italy woke up to snow and hail on Tuesday morning as temperatures plummeted across the country. Areas in higher altitudes in central Italy reported snow as well. The frosty weather is expected to continue until Thursday, March 26th, which is decidedly unusual for this time of the year, said the nation's meteorological services. Particularly on Wednesday and Thursday, temperatures will remain below normal while the snow will fall again on low latitudes in the inland areas of the center, south, and also in the Alps as well. Some beautiful images. Nothing really much beautiful coming out of Italy these days. Our thoughts and prayers are with these folks dealing with this cold temperature outbreak here across Europe and snow as well to affect the region. Again, lots of footage here on watchers.news. This is a very lengthy weather report for the Balkans. According to meteorologist Tyler Ross, said up to 3 inches of snow may fall in the middle of this week, including areas in lower elevations. They also noted as well the last days of March will be much colder than usual. The cold advection is expected to begin Friday night, March 27th, following that faster rising pressure of North Atlantic high pressure system. Very cold air mass then collects over Greenland Sea, spreading directly south towards the North Sea, Scandinavia, and the UK by Saturday, March 28th. And just a report here quick, this was an earthquake that happened last night, actually, if I'm not mistaken. No, was that this morning, Mari? The 7.8 earthquake?
I think so.
Our days are mixing together. So it was this morning.
It's all a blur.
7.8 earthquake off of Russia. Now, no tsunami warnings were reported. This has actually been downgraded to a 7.5. Originally, it came across as a 7.8 with a depth of 222 kilometers initially, as now has been also brought down just a tad bit as well, actually quite a bit. Now it's at 56.7 kilometers. Another agency is reporting it. EMSC is reporting at a 7.6. Others are saying 7.5. Nonetheless, there was no tsunami warning issued for Russia. Now, there was a tsunami watch issued for Hawaii, and nothing ever occurred from that, so the watch has been canceled, and all as well as far as that goes. Now, I want to go over to what's up with that, and I found this article tonight, and what's a disgrace is, once again, we've seen it in our own political body, where several Democratic senators were trying to sneak Green New Deal policies into this $2 trillion bill that we passed for coronavirus relief. A lot of people are like, that has nothing to do with coronavirus. It doesn't offer any options. Nothing that green energy would do would prevent coronavirus. This is something we can do down the road. Right now, we need to focus on coronavirus. And that's what a lot of people felt. Well, it's not just in our Democratic Senate and Congress, but the UN. This gentleman here, UN Secretary Antonio Guterres, delivered a speech about embracing the Paris Agreement to solve the COVID crisis. Now, you guys can read this. I already have read it, and I thought there was going to be some kind of benefits for green energy in fighting viruses. And shockingly, and I say that sarcastically if you can't tell, I read this speech, and mainly I agree with what he's saying. We got to tackle the health emergency. We need to fix this virus. It's going to have an impact on our social and economic response and recovery, and how important it is to make sure it's done safe. And we need to help the workers and blah, blah, blah. And I'm thinking, okay, yeah, I get it. But not once does it list or does he mention a reason why this Paris Climate Agreement will help defeat the COVID virus. It doesn't mention any of that. And again, it's just another fancy UN general or UN secretary using word salad to make it sound like he knows what he's talking about. But the whole speech was about the coronavirus. It was about getting better. It was about containing it. It was about going back to work and getting the economy back on track. It had nothing to offer about climate during the outbreak or anything, nothing like that whatsoever. Just another crooked politician, person of power, trying to be sneaky and hijack a crisis. I said it, hijacking the crisis. But I did want to read the note down here at the bottom. Mr. General Secretary, what people need right now is reliable and affordable energy to keep their refrigerators and freezers running during the crisis so they don't go hungry and leave their homes seeking food when the electricity fails and their frozen perishables spoil. Very, very important part, because let's say we were already reliant on solar and wind for this crisis. I mean, can you imagine the amount of grid failure? And I say that because, well, let's look at it this way. Let's say that we're not in virus crisis mode and we're running solar and wind on our grid. Everybody's at work. Most of the power in our homes are turned off. Most things are not running at full blade. But now that we're home, stuck at home, everybody's home. Maybe you have 2 kids. Maybe you have 3 kids. Mom and dad's home, running the lights, running the TVs, running the computers. Mom's doing the wash down in the basement. You know, kids are running their video. I mean, there is more energy being burned right now during this crisis situation. So I can't imagine how people would be coping right now. The demand, the only reason why we're able to sit here and run the TV and the computers and the tablets and the video game system is because energy comes from the fossil fuel industry. It's cheap and it will continue to drop. Across the nation right now, thankfully, the electrical companies and the water utilities and the gas companies, they're all being told that you can't shut people off, and you know, we're going to defer for the next 60 days. Maybe that gets expanded. Of course, the government handing out checks right now to help people pay the bills. But my point is that how reliable would green energy be right now during a time like this? It goes on saying we could also use cheap and reliable energy to help restart the industry when COVID crisis is resolved. Another good point. All the money that you're using right now that you have in the bank, for those of you who aren't working because you can't go back to work because your children are home, or maybe you have an underlying health condition, or maybe you're taking care of somebody who's sick with it right now. Whatever the reason may be, you can't go back to work. So when you go back to work, bills are going to be stacked. It's going to be a big clawback, big time. The last thing we need is expensive energy costs, which green energy right now and in the near future and beyond would be expensive. It's going to take years of green energy to be on board on the grid before we start seeing any savings. And by then it ain't going to matter because it will be obsolete in a short period of time. Once they start seeing the failures, I mean, you know, New York is in line to be all green by 2025. God forbid. Hopefully something changes that. I don't know. Miracles can happen. Expensive, unreliable, and utterly useless renewable and sustainable initiatives which contribute nothing to short-term prosperity are a waste of precious economic resources. I agree 100,000%. Imagine where we'd be right now if all the billions of dollars wasted on climate and sustainability initiatives like the Paris Agreement, which has utterly failed to contain the rise in global CO2, had instead been spent on medical research, which we need more than ever right now. Watched Dr. Fauci explain that it is very likely that we will see another cycle of this COVID in the fall going into the winter. That it's possible that the reason why these cases in Africa that are firing up is because we're in their summer heading into the winter. Therefore, the temperatures are cooling off. So it's a very good possibility that we could start to see another round of this by next fall. So we need to have as much money available for the resources of research right now. Very important. And I would rather spend those billions of dollars that they were going to do on solar panels and windmills on medical research. I think the president actually gave them these panel tax credits, believe it or not, folks. I don't know, I have to look at the bill. Please stop playing games and wasting money on which stuff doesn't matter. In the midst of the crisis, the priority is what helps us all right now to survive with our lives intact. The other stuff can wait. Absolutely. And well-written piece. Guys, go over to What's Up With That to check that out. And so let's talk about the 2020 hurricane forecast, shall we? Now, this is what Accuweather is calling for in 2020. 14 to 18 hurricanes, named storms, I should say, 7 to 9 hurricanes, 2 to 4 major hurricanes, and U.S. impacts 2 to 4. Now, the hype of this is that this is considered above average activity. So what was 2019's numbers, you say? Well, bear with me here. I'll show you. There, 18 named storms, 6 hurricanes, 3 major hurricanes. Last year, I think we only had one hurricane that hit the U.S., maybe 2. And then, of course, Dorian, which was a major hurricane, that did not hit the U.S., but did devastate the Bahamas. So I'm a little confused on the numbers about above average when these numbers here are right in line with 2020 predictions. And I remember hearing that how much of a light season we were in hurricanes last year compared to 2018 and 2017. So we've seen a decrease in landfalls and hurricanes, and Accuweather, I think, is giving a pretty safe prediction of 2 to 4. I'm going to agree with this projection, but I don't think that, I don't believe that this is above average. And the way that they bring this up in Accuweather's story here, it's very, very AGW-ish. Like, we've seen storms on the increase, and that's not true. 2017 and 18 definitely had more landfall storms, bigger storms as well. Harvey, Maria, Florence, Irene, or was it Iris? Maybe both. Who knows? But we've had a lot more action. Last year was really quiet. Other than Dorian, last year was a sleeper. So these numbers look almost identical to last year's numbers. The Atlantic, the warmth in the ocean right now is slightly above. So they do have that favoring their forecast. But, everything remains to be seen over the next several months. ENSO is neutral. And we expect it to head into a La Nina probably sometime in the fall or early winter of 2020, 2021. So I thought I'd bring that up tonight. Very relevant, just so you heard. I usually like Accuweather's forecasts and their predictions on hurricane season. They've been pretty close the last couple of years. I just didn't care for their reporting and making it sound as if global warming, man-made climate change is making these storms more dangerous and creating more impactful storms. And in fact, that's just not the truth at all. So you heard the truth here on Grand Solar Minimum. Severe storm outbreak may erupt over a large part of the U.S., forecasters warn. Now, we talked about the tornadoes Monday night. On Tuesday, we got them. Here we are again. Let's pay attention, folks. Thursday night, the tornado and severe thunderstorm threat is going to be in Kansas, across state lines in Missouri. You guys see here in the red spots, nothing in the major cities. That's on Thursday night And then on late Friday night, more of the same. And this is a little bit more of a bigger swath. Kansas City, Tulsa, St. Louis will be included. But that stripe in the middle of Missouri and southeastern Kansas, you guys will see the threat for severe weather. That's hail, isolated tornadoes, and damaging winds. Storm max winds of 60 miles per hour, 2 nights in a row. And then we get to this weekend setup, and it's just going to be a little bit further east. And now we're looking at severe weather in the Ohio River Valley, down the Mississippi, western Kentucky, and Tennessee as well. All of Arkansas, Indiana, southwest Ohio, all the way into northwest Ohio as well. And again, they're listing off the month-by-month averages for tornadoes. It's just that visual that you can get stuck in your head so you know that it's the time of the year, folks, and we're going to see some tornadoes. So a lot to watch here from Thursday, Friday into Saturday, mainly starting in Kansas, moving eastward from there in the Ohio Valley, Ohio River Valley, and the Mississippi River Valley as well. We'll get in on the action by Saturday night. Let's take a look at our GFS radar. Actually, you know what? I'm going to have to pause this for a second here because I forgot to update this. I know I'm bad. Mari, how's it going out there tonight? Everybody being good?
I'm just talking to people in the chat about what a horrible diabetic you are.
Well, did you tell them what a horrible wife you are by cooking me brownies?
Those weren't for you.
Oh, well, they're gone. So here we go. GFS radar. Taking a look at that storm that just passed through on the East Coast. This is for Thursday, tomorrow. Rain across the Minnesota, southern Minnesota, Wisconsin, snow and rain in the northwest. Still cold temperatures out there. And then that's when we start seeing the threats for severe weather pop up here in the Ohio River Valley. Moderate rain. It's not showing up as very relevant as it is in the forecast from Accuweather and weather.com, but it is there, folks. And then it gets a little bit heavier on Saturday. Southwest Ohio across Columbus into eastern parts of Ohio, also West Virginia. Snow trying to develop on the northern parts of this storm, but I don't think it's going to be quite cold enough for any snowfall. The GFS is indicating maybe some snow in northern Wisconsin and probably the far eastern parts of Minnesota. But that snow chance is diminishing as we speak. Even in parts of Maine, I'm not really trusting this model as well. I say this is still going to be mainly rain for you folks up there. Maybe some light snowfall, 1 to 3 inch range in the far northern parts of Maine, but mostly a rain soaker for the Northeast. That moves along. And then by March 31st, another potent system moving across the Midwest into the Tennessee Valley and Ohio Valley as well. This one's going to be more of the rain for the East Coast, South Carolina, North Carolina, Virginia, West Virginia, Pennsylvania. That storm moves off by April 2nd. Colder temperatures in the Northwest. Look at that. Lots of snow in Montana and North Dakota. Colder air in the Northeast. And we see that high pressure or that low pressure, that warming, ridging all the way up to Minnesota. So talk about ridge and fridge over here. It is definitely happening in the far northern plains in the western part of the United States. And as that storm continues to move east, bringing colder air to the Dakotas, this thing might have a potential to create blizzard-like conditions in the Dakotas. Talk about an early spring snowstorm. Dakotas, north and south, it looks like you guys could be the recipient of the majority of this snowfall around the 4th of April through the 6th. And then this low pressure system drags across the United States, bringing cold air to the northern plains, the Great Lakes, and the Northeast. By April 7th, temperatures in the 30s and 40s for highs, as another chance for snow across the Great Lakes and the northern plain states develops again on Thursday, April 9th. More rain in the south, more flooding possible as well along the Mississippi River Valley by April 10th. Meanwhile, that cold air is hanging around, folks. Check this out. This is for April 10th. I mean, temperatures, you can see that sharp line, 40s and 30s across most of the northern plains and the Midwest. Not ideal weather for you farmers out there to get into those fields and get to work. Still plenty of cold air on tap, too. Now, I'm not saying we're not going to see some shots of warm air from time to time, but look at how sharp this cold front is on Sunday, April 5th. Temperatures in Missouri, 25 degrees on one side of the state, and in the far southeastern part, you're going to see temperatures in the mid-60s. So almost a 40-degree temperature difference from state to state line. And then that ridge and fridge will happen further east on April 5th. Nice and warm in the beginning of April. Yeah, right. Here comes some more Arctic blast. Mainly for the northern plains, the Great Lakes, and the northeast. The rest of us is going to feel like normal spring, for the most part. But the northwest sure is trying to indicate we got some really cold air that's just trying to hang around with that snowpack. That's what's helping keeping temperatures low at night. Definitely seeing a warm up in Texas, Louisiana, and Florida. This is by April 10th. So we will continue to monitor the weather here throughout the country and around the world. Mari, would you like to say hi to anybody before we sign off on this channel? And I guess we're going to go over to WTF Sky and do another...
We could just have a chat or something. I just want to say hi to everyone out there. I'm very sorry, Tugta, about talking about brownies and stuff. She's fasting. She's trying to get her A1C levels down, which is very wise right now because this virus is very challenging for people who have diabetes, because diabetes makes it very hard for your body to fight off infection. Right, Jake?
Yes, right. White blood cells don't get produced as much, and it really can make a typical cold or virus last a little longer. The effects, I mean, as a diabetic, my blood sugars run high most of the time. I can tell you, I can't imagine catching this virus with high blood sugars, and as strong as this virus is on people with underlying illnesses, I can only imagine the amount of fatigue that would happen during this too. So yeah, I'll stay away from that. Don't worry, I'll take my shot after the show.
And that's all I got. I'd like to say hi to all our members.
What's up, Matt?
Patreons and mods in the chat. There's Cheryl, Knife Collector, Richard.
Hello, Knife Collector and Cheryl.
I said Cheryl. And who else? There's bunches of people. Hello, everyone.
Randy. Hello, Randy. Bonnie Blue. Hello, long time. Guys, click on WTF Sky. If you're not yet subscribed, we will take over there and do a live update on coronavirus chat. Talk about some of the measures that are being passed right now in our Senate, and also give you the update on the latest numbers and how we are being affected right now. Is social distancing working? You guys want to find out more about that? Check out WTF Sky. We will be on probably within the next 15 minutes, so don't miss anything, guys. Thanks for tuning in to the Grand Solar Minimum channel. We will talk again very, very soon, guys. Take care.
Do you like this show? Give us a thumbs up. Want to support us more? Share to your favorite social media platform. Buy a t-shirt or become a Patreon. All links are in the description below.